problem has to be solved, so I guess there's one or two ways of solving it. Is decide to do something or decide to do nothing, and as we know, the warm air and breeze and everything, right now it's down 6 inches. So it's moving down on its own. So, as you said, lake life, some people want to water ski, some people want to kayak, and some want to put around a pontoon boat. But when it's to a point where it's going to cause problems, you know, the town really doesn't have much of a choice. And if you, at the meeting, it was pretty much this body that wanted to close. So we closed it as the people that govern there to your request.
Where was that request? Where was that? Find in the minutes.
The meeting,
How many people were there?
No one shows up, we all show up. I mean, that's a vote. So 5 people voted.
well, I think
Wait, we got way too many people talking. Way too many people talking.
regardless, the lake is down right now. It's getting down closer, and it's on the agenda for Monday night's meeting, to discuss it again, so. 12, yeah, a week from Monday. But, anyway, so that'll be discussed there, but right here is we're trying to figure out if you guys are interested in going forward to the next.
But let's do the math on this. So it's $150,000 for that thing over there. We have 300 property owners basically on this lake, right?
Yeah.
Is that $500 a piece? What we're looking at here, as far as, you know, you spread it over 5 years, we're looking at $100 a piece and we're arguing over this?
Yeah, you have people that have boathouses that they can finally use. What's to say the lake is too high? People didn't build boathouses on dry land. I used to have a boathouse. I tore it down because the water level was so far back for decades and decades. That chart would be very different. There's records of higher lake levels when they surveyed the lake prior to dredging in 1968. Michael's got a report where it talks about lake levels and what they did. There's also another marsh that's on the map that's been filled in over the years and built on. So historically, people ignored what a wetland was and allowed them to be closed up, which today you'd never get it through. You know, I mean, they're much more stricter. But who is to say that where the lake is now, that's not okay? Because there are 2 people that can use their boathouses now. And I don't know if any one of them is here, but I'd be really ticked off if you say, put a drain it down 3 feet, and now their boathouse is a shed again.
Show me a picture where there's a lake, there was a boat using those boathouses.
You know, you're right, they built a block shed with doors opening onto the lake. I mean, I'll show you where.
We had a property right next to one of the boathouses. I know the lot. I've never seen the water in it.
Go ahead.
I have a different question.
For the name,
I have a different question.
name,
Your name?
James O'Day.
thanks.
I have a different question. We've spent money to have all this done, but we haven't spent a dime to have somebody determine how many properties would be affected with the lake level this high. So you've caused us to lose our summer of using our lake with absolutely no information as to whether or not a wake would do any damage at all to any property. Not one. So you have no information about what kind of lake level, how high the lake has to get before a significant number of properties are damaged in some fashion.
And at that meeting we had here, that people were here complaining about that, and one of the concerns we had too, somebody said, well, don't let the kids be on the beach, but the beach was so close to the retaining wall there that a wave runner could have sucked the kid in. I mean, you got some beach left right now? Well, whatever, you got your opinion, I got mine, but we did it for, we thought was safety. We did it for what was safety, is what we thought, and damaged the property. Can you help on that?
Why don't you close the beach?
I mean, like you
Why
said,
don't you
your
close
erosion into the lake.
Yeah, you know, I think looking at the elevation of the different properties around the lake, at some point, the water probably causes problem for people. Now, is that one person, is it 5 people, is it 50 people, is it 150 people?
And what level?
At what level, right. So, my experience in the region is that most lake districts decide at some point, when it gets to this point on Mr. Jones' property or Mr. Smith's property or whatever it may be, most people consider the lake very high and that the waves are probably going to cause problems. Now, I don't know what that is for your lake, but you know, you guys probably have a pretty good idea. Was this level in July of 2017 something that most people felt was just fine? Maybe it was. I don't know. You tell me.
It was mixed just as it is now.
Okay. And then the question is, well, what does it need to drop to before a majority of the people feel, well, that's a good level because, yeah, it's high, but it doesn't really cause me a lot of problems. You know, when it's normal, probably nobody cares. If it's in a drought, you know, there's other problems with that. My dock's not deep enough, all those things.
We're based on a lot of this information on 8 years.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of, I mean, whatever happened to the 100-year floodplain that everybody was talking about, how about even go 50 years? I mean, I know in my time on the lake over the years, it's been lower, in my opinion, than it has been higher.
A lot more off.
So it's actually kind of nice, other than some, I think we all realize it is higher than the normal, but what is normal? And I've seen it in my lifetime, this lake much, much lower, which was then a concern how low it was getting. Now we're on the other side and it's a natural occurrence.
I think somebody had mentioned that there was some historic data prior to the dredging and that. Certainly if any of that information could ever be brought forth to the town, that graph can go back as far as there's data. You know, and the question then is, well, what was the data relative? Was it gauge data? Was it, you know, based on, you know, some vertical datum that this is or not?
Well,
Tom Miller, 7705 Lilly Lake. I really understand everything that everybody is saying, but I think the whole point of the meeting here was to come up with a plan.
Yeah.
So maybe we get back to that. I think everybody here, as much as it's so inconvenient, we need to be here on August 12th because it's the town board that controls whether or not they're going to open the lake. Because nothing today, as much as we say today about whether it should be open or shouldn't be open, if I'm wrong, correct me, but otherwise I think that's the meeting we need to be at. And so if we could maybe just get back to the order of business here and come up with whether or not we're going to approve something.
So the lake's going to remain closed at least through the 12th, is what
Yeah.
I have one question. This one, sorry for my voice, but I'm on my third bout with cancer, so sometimes they took out when they dredged the lake almost 500,000 cubic yards of mud. That's right in the dredging report. Now, how much water does this lake hold now than it did before? And before, we never had high water marks. We never had no wind. That's because the lake had a place to drain. But then it's not filled in. Now we got a problem. Now the people that live on the lake have to bail out the problem. That's not our problem. It's the people who issue all those permits and that. If necessary, they should be brought to court. And somebody should make them accountable to pay for everything. Not us. I didn't issue a permit to anybody.
Mayor, Sheila, do you have a list of the people that have complained that it's affecting their property?
Not per se a list, no.
See, that's the problem we've had, is with the 5th time, we never have a list of people that have complained. And the people that have complained are the problem people, and their walls, you know, your property was a swampland. I have pictures, nobody wants to see the pictures, of cattails where your house is. It was filled up, and that's not the issue right now. The issue is, back in the 60s and the 70s, we didn't have a problem until this development. This development, people built nice homes. They came here when the lake had been receded. Everything the engineer said is very valid, but we've only got 8 years of data. Back in the 60s and 70s, when it was a lot higher, we didn't have a problem. But we had people that came in here and you hired landscapers and not seawall specialists. And I believe that Tom Miller had his wall done. It's called riprap, and that's what you need to use. But you know what? We've got a few people that have complained that they're being affected, and why should all of us suffer for the few? There's no, we've got a lake closed now, and you don't have anybody that's documented that we've got a problem. So where do we have a problem? You're saying we have a problem. We don't have any residents on the lake saying that they've got a problem. And the ones that have a problem probably have encroached on the lake with landscape boulders or landscape timbers, and that's wrong. And you know what? I talked to a specialist, and it's $75 a foot to put riprap. That's what it costs. So for an average lot, 50 foot, it's going to be roughly $3,800 to have the problem taken care of. We're talking 150. And again, we're going to have people that sit there and going to be happy wherever you adjust it to, and there's going to be people that are unhappy. I'm on a lower level, on a shallower area. I like where the water's at. And if I have a problem, it's my problem. And once again, you're sitting there saying that when you have the beach problem, close the lake because of a beach problem. Close the beach. You know, the problem, in my opinion, is easy. If there's somebody that's complaining, take care of your property. The township and the county doesn't have any jurisdiction over the shoreline. It's the DNR.
What was the DNR put the high water mark at when they did the boat ramp?
The regulatory level was 757.8, and again, that's just for when you're doing shoreline alterations, as in putting in the new boat ramp. So Elaine Johnson from the DNR is what forwarded that information, that elevation.
And that, by definition, is the ordinary high water mark.
Correct.
Not the extraordinary.
That's right. It's what the DNR considers an average fluctuation of high water conditions on the lake over time. How they establish that, I don't know, but that's what we have to work with.
So if somebody wants to get a permit, then they have to be 75 feet back from the water line, it's that high water.
Yeah, the ordinary high is typically what establishes the elevation from which the setbacks are established.
But don't be confused by the ordinary, because it could be much higher, but it could be much lower.
Right.
But the problem is, as an engineer, can you tell us, are landscape timbers, are these landscape blocks, should they be used as seawalls per se?
Well, I can tell you that the DNR typically would prefer to see natural materials like riprap or boulders for a shoreline versus some man-made, steel sheet piling or timbers or other things. Typically, they don't permit that anymore.
The hollow block, if they're saturated in the wintertime, filled with ice, will start out. Right. So that's the issue.
Can I ask,
Mr. Patton.
can I ask, do we have a show of hands, how many people believe their shoreline is damaged at this point by this height of water? And how many do believe they're being damaged? How many do not believe it's damaging it?
With no wake, it's fine.
No, with a wake.
It's gonna be worse in the wintertime when we get the ice pushed.
Yeah, assuming a wake, the lake is open, how many people think their property is damaged?
I can show you. We're not talking about boats in the 50s and 60s. We're talking about youth boats with 6-foot waves. That's what we're talking about.
But there's no 6-foot wake.
I've seen a guy surf on the back of the boat. I've seen a guy surf on the back of his boat. All right, so that's 4 feet waves. Open your eyes, get some binoculars, you know?
Okay, I want to hear from Mr. Patton. Yes, Mr. Patton, go ahead.
Thank you, Sheila. So, just sitting here listening at 77, 28, and 77, 18, 328. What I'd like to know from this meeting is the current high water mark that it is now. What is the specific facts that were considered to issue the order no wake? I'm not hearing what those specific facts are. If it's property owners are seeing erosion to their property, okay, that's a legitimate fact to consider. Can we fix that problem and have this current level of the lake allow for the no wake to be taken off? It seems to me that should be one topic that should be addressed. And if there's 10 landowners, I mean, I have some erosion, certainly, the sand on my beach is gone. But it's not enough for me to say, I want a no wait on this lake. So what can be done to make it acceptable at the current level of the water to take the no wait out? I think we don't have the facts there yet to address that. And certainly you don't want this to deteriorate into neighbors fighting neighbors about what they want. I think we just need to get the facts out there. What properties have you considered in issuing the no wait? And I hear some about the beach too. That may be another fact to be considered.
So,
Can we solve that problem with it right now? What's the cost? Maybe people will be willing to fund for the property owners that feel that their properties are eroding, to put in. I have rocks that prevents my property from eroding, and the water's up against the rocks. If we can't come to a decision at its current level, then back to the engineer's observations, what will it take to open up that one end where I understand there was a culvert there. I've only been on the lake for 22 years. I wouldn't know. But what then, if that's the backup plan, what's it going to take to evaluate that and figure out the cost to have that be a natural drainage point so we can, I think the goal here is no one really wants a no wait order on this lake. And so how do we resolve it? I'm not hearing right now what this meeting is about, what specifically are you going to be evaluating to see if you can get a culvert in. It sounds like the landowner behind me is okay with that. What's it going to cost to do that? That may solve all these problems, and we won't be here on our Saturday mornings going forward.
you deal with a lot of lake districts, so it's just the body decides where the high water mark is, because like you said, you put a fixed object in there and they pull up at the boat ramp and say, this is it. So how do we find that mark? That's the mark I was hoping we'd find today, and then say, okay, well, when it's 757 or below, lake's wide open. If it's 750, and that's how, if you could explain how we could get that number, because it sounds like, the $50,000 doesn't seem to be, and Dean says he can go through his property, but it all comes at a cost.
Sure. Most lake districts or municipalities that the lakes are in establish what's called a slow no wait ordinance, and that usually is a collective opinion of the lake residents as to at what level does this lake really start causing problems for people. If you look at some of the municipalities around here, be it Twin Lakes, Salem Lakes, what have you, most lakes have a elevation that is considered slow no wait. It's not arbitrary, it's not, well, this resident or that resident complained and influenced someone to close the lake, or it was, geez, once it gets to this level, there was a fair amount of hands in here. If we've got large watercraft causing large wakes, that's a problem. So I'm not here to tell you that your slow no wait should be 759 or 758 or 760. That's generally a consensus of the property owners. If you think where the lake is at right now, you start allowing recreational boat traffic, it causes problems for people. I think I saw about half the hands go up here, if we open the lake today, that have concerns. I'm not here to judge, that's your issue. But all I'm telling you is that if you establish some high water mark where at least the water can start going out of the lake, it finds a happy median to establish itself at. And yeah, during a drought period, there's different issues, but the high water is usually more of a concern with damage than low water is. And so, establishing where that's going to be, that's really going to have to be, we look at the different elevations around the lake and decide, okay, well, most properties, shorefront is here, so anything above that is probably going to cause some problems. We can look at contour maps and probably get a pretty good idea, but generally speaking, we can the town or the district can set anything they want. If nobody here is happy with it, well then what does it do? It doesn't do anything. So we got to find that level. If the level today is acceptable to the majority of the people to allow recreational activity, not close the lake, fine, let's call that the elevation then. 758.5, that's the elevation. It's no longer arbitrary then. We will put a lake gauge in there, everyone can drive by the public beach. When it gets to this level, the lake's open. When it's above that level, the lake's closed. That's what most lake districts have. You go to Silver Lake, you go to Twin Lakes, any of those, they all have a gauge. Everyone drives by and says, geez, I hope for hot, dry weather because I'd like to use my boat or whatever it may be, you know. And so you gotta decide where is that level? If the level it's at today is acceptable to everybody, then the town should maybe consider that as the level that's slow no way. If everyone thinks it's too high and it should be 6 inches lower, well then, okay, that's the level then.
My question is to my fellow owners, Tom, is there a level you think the lake should be closed? I mean, at a certain point there, you didn't think it should be closed there. At what level should the lake be closed? I mean, that's the debate right now. What level should we decide?
I think the level of the lake right now is fine.
Yeah, but what level, do you ever think we should shut it? Do you think, I mean, that's the question, do we ever think we should shut the lake or just let it keep going higher and higher?
Higher and higher, it's gonna run off across the road.
It's gonna run across over by the beach, over by McCarthy's, and over by the bar over there, and those property owners are gonna have a problem. And you're gonna have a problem, Tom, you're low. You're gonna have a problem.
I'm not the one.
No, the question is, do we ever shut it down? Do we ever shut down the lake, or keep it going all the time? That's all I wanna know.
Bob Griffin, one of the things that Mr. Patton said was his beach is gone. Where'd it go?
It's there,
It was
it's
sucked
under the
down, it
water.
was sucked down into the lake, and that's a very short-term concept that that's okay. All right? If we're gonna be on this lake for the next 100 years, we can't let it just damage and all of the erosion suck back into the lake. You've got to say, let's preserve the edge of the lake now so that that doesn't happen. And I just think that that's a very, very short-term concept. Oh, my beach is gone, but that's okay. I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's okay that the beach, the public beach is gone.
Well,
You know.
add to that, that's what I was hoping that we could come up with.
If you listen to the DNR,
But,
80% of the shoreline damage is done by ice, not waves. That's the DNR. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. So we're sitting here arguing about waves. Ice, if the lake level is ice it is, and we have a miserable cold winter, everybody that's had a problem with their shoreline statistics are bad, because the ice will push it way back. And we can't stop the ice.
I just want to respond to the comment about the beach. I think you missed my point. Some of us are willing to have that lake take our beaches away, and we're fine with it. My point was, some of us are not. So what solution can we come up with for those that don't want to lose their beaches to fix this problem? That's the point I was making.
Right there, those glasses.
Mark Seegers, 7729 334th. My house is on the hill, so I don't have to worry about flooding. However, yes, everything is underwater. There's a natural, what heavy rains, when you get the downpours and heavy rains, unless you have a flat yard, it causes sediments and grass clippings, whatever have you, and this is a sandy area to filter in. That's why they probably had to dredge a lake. Over hundreds of years, it fills in. So the water level appears to be higher, and the spread of the lake gets bigger. When you dredge it, you take the bottom out, it comes back. That's what apparently was done. And I have not only been here 5 years, so I don't have any of the history they all have. That's a natural occurrence. But with the more recreational, larger boating with the no wake issues, that compounds the problem for the people with the flatter ground, or all of it. It's going to have a little bit more wave action up against the sides, and it's going to silt it in. So it's a Band-Aid effect. But yeah, and the Fox River also. And I came from south of the border, so I know all about the Fox River. And they have state DNR specific guidelines at certain elevations. It doesn't matter, it's not arbitrary. At that elevation, the river goes in no way. I'm very used to that. I think that's a very good point they brought up. You just establish a criteria, and that's what it is. If the year's wet, well, it's wet. If it's a drier year, it's a drier year. It's all said and done. No arguments.
It's Mother Nature, and you ain't gonna change her.